Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy, Barnett,
Hi.
Robin Grubel,
Hey there.
and Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, this is Stacy Barnett from Canine Detection Collaborative, and I am here with my co-host, Crystal Wing.
Howdy, friends.
And we have a wonderful guest with us today, Petra Ford.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. Petra is one of our co-instructors at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy, and she's an incredible obedience trainer and competitor. And actually, I don't want to say too much. I'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit and maybe tell us a little bit about your background. You've got some, and a little bit about the dogs that you have and what they're doing.
Yeah, so right now I only have 3. Kidding. I've been wanting a puppy ever since I lost the Zayden, who was my 4th, but I am holding off. So I have Zeal. He's retired. He's almost 13, but he's so adorable. He still wants to train. So he trains actually, and then we did a little rally. He got 2 rally titles, but he still wants to train. And if it's taking too long for his turn, he like jumps up, pushes the dogs like out of heel position or out of front position. Like, look, I'm doing it, Mom. So he still trains exact same amount as my other 2 because he deserves to do whatever he wants. Then I have Zaina. She is 9. So she's what I would consider a seasoned competitor. She's been competing for a while. She kind of knows the drill, which is super fun because in obedience, oh boy, you better like delayed gratification because you for years and years and years and years and years before your dog can even show. Never mind years and years and years before your dog's like so dialed in where she is now, where I don't even have to talk. I don't say anything when I'm training. I don't say anything in the ring. If I give her any information, it's like at a whisper because that's all I need. It's so nice, but it's unfortunately takes really long to get there. So you only have a few years of that. And then I have Zesty. He's 4. Actually, he'll be 5 shortly. He has his arch, but he's still not what I would consider seasoned, right? Like I'm still getting him he just still needs a little more time. He's getting close, but to get where I want my dogs to be, which is not where most people want them to be, but that's okay. I have my own thing that I do with them. So yeah, so that's what I have right now.
And can you describe what ACH is for our detection-only people?
Yeah, so it's basically a championship title for competition obedience. It has certain requirements that they have to meet, a certain number of points that they have to get in order to. And that's the highest title that they can get. The only other title that's possible to get after that is a national champion,
Which you have done.
Yeah. Zeal was a national champion. His father won it twice. Yeah.
And, you've got a long history, even with before Zeal, right? I mean,
I know. I don't like to. Okay. So.
no, you can totally and if you don't brag on yourself, we're going to brag on you for you. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I'll tell you. It's just okay, it's going to sound weird. I don't really train for those things specifically.
Mm-hmm.
They happen because of how I train, I think. But Tyler was an incredibly special animal. There is zero doubt about that. I was fortunate enough to know it when I had him, since he was only my 2nd ever competition dog. The more years I train, the more dogs I have, the more I realize it's constantly reaffirming. He was a very special animal. Won the national twice. He came in 2nd once. He went to the World Cup twice. He placed 2nd the first time. He won it the 2nd time we went. No American dog has ever done that. He was a master hunter, qualified all age. Those are field titles. He was a great dog. He just worked to make me happy. So I got lucky. I got a super amazing dog very early on. In a way, which can be good, it can be bad if you're not super mindful, right? Because after him, I was incredibly mindful because I knew that I could easily fall into a trap of comparing my subsequent dogs to him, and they would fall short and I would be disappointed, and it would filter down to my dogs that there were going to be all these expectations on me based on what I had accomplished with that dog.
Yeah.
And so I had to be super mindful to separate myself from that so that I wouldn't go down that rabbit hole. And it's super fortunate I did because, like, even Zeal, his son, who, yes, he won a national, but holy Hannah, he was the polar opposite, night and day. Couldn't have been any more different. Couldn't have been any more of a challenge to train. Unbelievably hard dog to train. So I'm just really grateful that I was at a point in my life where I had enough mindfulness, self-awareness that I could manage that.
I have a question about that. I know you've probably had a lot of this. I'm curious how you handle it when students are really hung up on their previous dog and you're trying to help them with the dog that's in front of them. How would you help them? Like, what do you say to them, or how do you coach them through that?
I'm just very honest, right? Like, so for example, someone will say to me, she's so nervous. She's always so nervous. And I'll go, she doesn't really look nervous to me. And then I'm like, was your prior dog nervous? Oh yeah, my prior dog was really nervous. I said, yeah, this is not your prior dog. This is a completely different dog. This dog is not nervous. I'll tell them a story. Like, Zeal was fact. Poor, incredibly nervous dog. Like, if I couldn't use a clicker, he would twitch if I used a clicker. Like, it made
wow.
He was terrified of like random inanimate objects. One of the first times he was in the novice ring, this very lovely gentleman did the stand for exam. Zeal peed himself in the ring. Like, I could go on and on for hours. And so that is truly who he was and who he is. So for a very long time, that's what I labeled him. He's a nervous Nancy. He's a nervous Nancy, right? And so one day I went to a seminar, and we were doing like an exercise, and I said to the presenter, see how nervous he is? And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I don't think he's that nervous. I was like, lightning struck me. That was never even on the table for me. Him not being nervous, like, that wasn't even an option. Right. So all of a sudden I stepped back and I went, oh, okay. Like, I need to reframe this whole situation. So this is the corniest thing ever, but I went home the next day, bought him a new collar. I went to work and I said to the girls at work, he is now a brave, courageous dog. Because I'm like, if I don't believe that, if I don't visualize that, if I don't strive to achieve that, it's never going to happen. So did he overnight become confident? Oh, no. Did it take years? Was it super hard? Yep, it was. But eventually he became confident. And that is the only reason he won the national later in life, was because I completely changed my mindset. So a lot of times I'll tell them that story, and I'll tell them that you have to read the dog in front of you, and you have to kind of like step back, take all the labels away, and be a detective, like, be objective, right? Because emotions are like really not good for us to have around dogs. So I pretty much just tell them that. And to date, every single person I've had that conversation with has been super receptive. And they're like, yeah, oh my gosh, I totally get it. You're right. I have been doing that. And I think once people understand that and they're aware of that, then they have the ability to now change the narrative for that dog.
Yeah, that's actually, I refer to, like, I've had the confidence issues with my mini Aussie Y. I would tell people he's now Y 2.0. And I had a few students that kind of like took on that, like, they say their dog was so-and-so 2.0. And for them, that kind of helped. But it's a lot of the same. It's like you put those labels on the dog and the label can become reality if you're not careful.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm curious too, would you have ever considered washing your dog? Is the sport like your main focus? You get the dog for the sport, or do you get the dog and then decide what they like to do?
No, my dogs are pets, first and foremost. I have never washed a dog. So I had a dog that he's chemically unbalanced, like he was not right. He's chemically unbalanced. So he basically presented so I'm a physical therapist. Back in the day, I worked with children with all different special needs. And so I was very familiar with children with autism. And literally that's how he presented. And when his arousal was too high, he was incapable of bringing it back down himself. He couldn't do it. So I developed strategies to help with that. Anyway, long story short, he could not do obedience. The thought of not keeping him was never crossed my mind once. He was able to do agility. I hated agility. I did agility with him his entire life.
That was Zayden, right?
Zayden. It brought him so much joy that I couldn't not do it. The sport frustrated me endlessly, but I did it for him. He was fully trained in obedience, but he never stepped into the ring because he couldn't control himself. Like he would just start vocalizing, and I just wasn't going to push him into that. And I don't know, at one time, I think it was an agility trial, I was talking to somebody about him, and she said to me, well, why wouldn't you have rehomed him? And that was the first time anybody said that to me. I was so shocked. I didn't even know what to say. I almost started to cry. I was like, I love him. I loved that dog. So no, that is not on the table for me. That once my dogs come home, they're my pets. Is that hard training wise? Sure. But I love to train, period, end of the story. Competing gives me goals to train for. If I don't have a goal, I wander aimlessly. If I have a goal, I love goals. Goals drive my training. So when I show, it's like, okay, where's my dog at? For me, for what I want, I decide if I liked it or not intrinsically based on what I want, not on what score I got or what ribbon I got or what placement I got. And then I go back and I keep working. If any of my dogs couldn't compete tomorrow, so be it. If all they could do is lay on my couch, they get to lay on my couch. I would never wash a dog.
You dropped a nugget in there that I think people would beat me if I didn't at least ask. You said that, working with, and I want to go back to physical therapy later, but you said that he struggled to bring his arousal down. And you were like, yes, I did some magical things there, but we'll just go skip past that. Can we not skip past that?
Yeah, so actually we shouldn't, because actually the things I learned from this dog have benefited my dogs to the nth degree. And as a consequence, many of my students' dogs. It taught me about arousal to a whole nother level. So one day I walked into work and I looked at one of the girls that worked with me and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, he does the weirdest things. I'm like, he's just like one of my kids with autism. And I went, oh. So when these kids get hyper aroused, right? And they do things to bring themselves down, but we can help them. So one of the things that helps them is deep pressure, like weighted blankets, squeezing them, pressure. So I said, okay, so you couldn't touch him. You couldn't pet him. He couldn't be touched. He couldn't tolerate it. So I just started every day, every night. I just did I pushed his head really hard and he could tolerate that for 15 seconds and he'd leave. Okay, next day again. Eventually I could do that more and more. Then I had him lay down. I would just put my hands on his ribs and lean hard onto him. Right. And he could tolerate it short amount of time. I increased the time until eventually I could do it for quite a long time. Then I transferred it to other people to put pressure on him. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And so eventually I could tell he was going, oh, I know why I did it. Because he would start to escalate and I'd be at work and he's in a crate and he starts screaming, not barking, screaming.
Yeah.
So if I couldn't do it, I'd go, like, everybody look around and whoever's free will go, I'll do it. Run back, take him, deep pressure, boom, X amount of time, he would go down. So that taught me about deep pressure. And I was like, oh, I can develop, maybe I can. So eventually I was able to just rub his head. So I was able to decrease the cue, right? So I'm like, oh, well, what about when one of my competition dogs gets really aroused and I need to ratchet that down? Why don't I teach them a deep pressure cue and then fade it down, right? So I was able to do that with my dog. So now I have an up cue and a calm cue for each of my dogs, which is phenomenal because I can go, so I can adjust the thermostat, right? So if I want my dog at 67, my dog goes to 70, I go calming. My dog goes to 62, I go up cue. So I can keep him in that sweet spot like 100% of the time. And what's super fascinating is all my dogs, not including Zayden, because he's an exception, they now they manage their own arousal in certain situations. So for example, if they're a little overly aroused and I say, we're going to heal, they're like, hold on. They bring their arousal down. They'll sneeze, yawn, do something. And then they look at me and they're like, okay, I'm ready now. Mm-hmm. So that to me was really fascinating. And I thought maybe it was like the first dog. I'm like, wow, he's pretty cool that he figured that out. Well, next dog did it. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting.
And so you're giving them the space to figure that out. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really, really fascinating. Honestly, what you're describing with Zayden actually reminds me a lot of Brava. It's the autistic-like qualities actually that she has and she has the whole touch thing. And just when the arousal goes up, I can see it's kind of like she doesn't know kind of what to do with it. I'm going to try that head thing with her and see if that helps. Cause I know sometimes it looks like she just doesn't know where to go with it. And the touch is really, really hard for her. So I think I'm going to try that.
It has to be very hard and very deep, right? So if you're like super nervous and anxious and
yeah,
you have to imagine something and someone comes up and starts rubbing your arm. Oh
yeah. Yeah.
Annoying, right?
Yeah. Like she's got I can touch her really just along her spine. Yeah. And that's kind of like the yes zone. I always say she's like a cat. Like there's yes zones and no zones. And like her yes zone is just along her spine,
Undue pressure. It's like that heavy pressure because that's calming. So like if someone squeezes you really hard.
Yeah.
Calming, right? So that's where people struggle sometimes is doing that. And then again, like you have to do a little bit at a time, and build, and then eventually I was able to do his whole body. And He was so interesting. Like he never let women pet him ever. Cause how do women pet? Oh, doggy, quick petting. Love men. You know why? Men pet very heavy strokes.
Huh.
And if he wanted affection from me, he would come up, he would shove his chest into my chest and I would squeeze him and he would stay there. That is the only thing other than that, I didn't pet him. Yeah. Because he didn't like it.
That's wow.
I love that you just said that because I've never given my dad credit that he has taught me how to pet my dogs. But when you just said that, that's 100% how I learned, was watching him interact with the dogs and seeing they just melted when he would pet them. I'm like, what is he doing? And I watched and I would mimic that. And it's a really deep, like right between the eyeballs, and that kind of like deep push on the forehead and the two thumbs, going across the forehead. And I was like, oh, I'd never done that before. And when I started doing it, they were like, finally, the chick figured it out.
Yes, they don't like that like quick petting thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that observation. That kind of, thank you, Dad, if you ever listen to this. It's a public thing now.
Yeah, men intuitively just pet differently.
I would want to ask about your physical therapy background, because I was curious how that shaped the way that you train and care for your dogs, especially intense competition. I mean, there's such an advantage, I would think, that you can really see your dog. Because I kind of feel sometimes like I wish I couldn't see the things that I can see now.
It's a blessing and a curse, right? So I was technically I am a human physical therapist. Then I became certified to do physical therapy on dogs. So I did that for a long time. That was
actually how I met Petra. So
for a long time. And I've also been like athletic the vast majority of my life. So I've always been in tune to like keeping them fit. So then now I'm obsessed with it. But yes, I notice every little thing. And sometimes I'm like, when I hike my dogs off leash, oh gosh, they're lunatic.
Yeah.
And it used to be way more fun for me before I knew what I knew. Now I'm like, oh God, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think conditioning is really important in general, right? Just for general fitness. I love hiking just because it also gives them a massive release, right? Like they can't just work all the time. They need to clear their head. I do also certain specific conditioning. Like right now, Zaina got a little tight. She must have been, she probably did something kooky hiking. So I work on that with them. I do think it's very important for them to be fit for a competition, especially higher level when you're doing like tournaments and things like that. I mean, obviously, if they're physically tired, they're going to be mentally tired. It's no different than for us humans, right? It's the exact same thing. So yes, I do incorporate that into my already full schedule.
Yeah. Now, do you do an off season as well, or are you pretty much year round?
I mean, our season is year round, but I mean, I give my dogs very purposefully chunks of time off. Like I'll do a whole week off or 2 weeks off, right? And maybe if like our national is in July, after that, I'll give them probably at least 2-3 weeks off. It'll be terrible for me because they're going to make me insane. But I think that's, again, it's physically important, but it's also mentally super important. I could train forever, but they need a mental break, just like we do. It's no different than humans. Our brains need a break. Our bodies need a break. When you train for anything physical, there's a cycle. You're not going full out like all the time. You have to cycle up and cycle down, cycle up and cycle down. So I've always used the same concept with all my competition dogs: cycle up, cycle down. Put in very mindfully, purposefully put in days, periodically days, weeks, months, etc., wherever I need to just give them time to decompress.
And what does that off week look like?
Yeah, that's where I was going. It's like, what does cycle off mean? Does
it looks like me locking myself in the bathroom so I can have 5 minutes of peace? They do nothing. I do nothing. Depending on.
But do you hike or anything? Or
I might not even do that because, so for example, right now, they hike 3 to 4 times a week, at least an hour. And it's like out in the woods, up and down rocky trails, etc. Plus they're training, right? Like 5 days a week, which it counts, right? It's still physical. So we're competing, right? Well, we have a little break now because I don't like to compete, even though nationals aren't until July. I don't like to compete that much in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give them time off where they are doing nothing, no hiking. I mean, I have a yard, an acre fenced in with a dog door, so they have access to that. But I want their body has to repair as well, right? And if I keep hiking them, it's the same thing. It's that physical cycling on, cycling off, right? If they don't have time, everything doesn't repair them, they're going to end up getting hurt.
I'm just trying to live with, because I mean, your dogs are related to my dogs, and I'm trying to picture not doing anything with them and surviving in the same house.
Do they learn how? Like, what are your expectations? Like, how do you survive? Like, do they learn how to do it? Like,
No,
I'm sure you set boundaries of some sort.
No, my dogs are heathens.
People are always surprised by that when they'll meet my dogs and like they're total house heathens.
I've had people come over my house and they're like, "Oh my God, you weren't lying." I'm like, "No, I'm not lying."
But funny story, right? Like I went over to Petra's house because I had to do something FDSA. I had like internet issues, and I come in and she's like, "Oh my God, they're heathens! They're heathens!" And I'm like, "Oh, they're really kind of normal." Just like. This is
that's okay. A warped sense of normal.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if someone comes over the house, I need a 15-minute warning so I can give them all a bone, or else you're going to get mauled. Like that's just the way it is. They're naughty. They're naughty. Yeah, they can't eat my food. My food is mine. But they're on the couches. They sleep on the bed with me.
That's normal.
Go ballistic every time someone has the nerve to walk by my house. I like
normal. What's abnormal here?
Yeah, we're in good company.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're high drive dogs. I got them for a reason, right? I have a fairly high tolerance because once I'm done, I feel like training is hard, right? And I'm asking a lot of them. And to be quite honest, I do a lot of different things. I don't only train dogs. So by the time I'm in the house, I don't really have the energy to be like, "Oh, be polite, don't do this, don't do that." So I have, like I said, I have a high tolerance, right?
Yeah.
I live by myself. I have that luxury.
Yeah.
I can do that. There are certain things like if I'm eating, no, they're good. They won't bother because they know they're not getting anything and don't come near my food. But for the most part, they're a little kooky.
It just sounds completely normal to me. And when I met them, I'm like, yeah, they're normal. But
I think it's great when like my dad will visit. He's like, "You're very patient." That's the word he uses.
Yeah, but it's also like, they're my pets,
right?
I totally understand. They are like, if Zesty was in a pet home, he would have been in a shelter or rehomed 300%, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not what he was bred for.
Nope.
So I understand that when I get that, right? So when people contact me and say, "Oh, where do you get your dogs?" I'm like, not really what I want. And then I'll say, like, "Is this what you want? Can you live with this?"
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll say, "This is what my dog's life is like." And 99% of the time they're like, "Oh, no, I don't want that." Right. And that's valid because for other people, the other things are more important. So it's just a personal choice. That's all.
Totally.
And speaking of once, what breeds have you worked with? Like, have you lived with that you enjoy? Like, are you really set on one? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I like labs. I play the "what other dog would I get" game all the time. I've been playing that game for years and years and years and years. I am a working line Labrador. Literally the other day, I emailed my friend. I'm like, "Yeah, I just realized that I am Zesty." And my friend emailed back like, "You just figured that out now?" So they match my personality like completely. So every time I think about getting another dog, I'm like, I don't know. They match me energy wise, physically, right? Because I'm physically really active. They're just a good match for me. And like I said, they're my pets first. So I had a special needs pit bull for a while. I always say my retirement dog, when I don't train dogs anymore, is going to be a rescue pitty.
Interesting. All right.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was an awesome dog.
So we're going to get you into bite sports too, you said?
Now why I can't do bite sports, because I have had many bite sport clients. I cannot watch. What it does to a dog's body is horrifying when you're a physical therapist, right? And when I work on those dogs, and I would just be like, every time my dog went on the sleeve, or God forbid, the helper has
one misstep.
Oh, my clients like stopped even showing me videos because I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do bite sports. I think I would like it from a training perspective. I think it would be super fun.
Yeah.
And I actually think some of my dogs could do it because they're pretty insane tuggers. But yeah, I can't.
There's some good labs out there doing it. So that's why I was like,
Well, I mean, you could do the obedience.
Yeah, I could.
Right. I mean, the obedience would be a little bit different though. Like
even the wall and the A-frame, like it's ridiculous how
But
high.
you can do obedience without jumps. Just saying. If you do Mondio.
Oh gosh. I don't have.
We're playing. I'm playing.
I understand how I'm wired, right? Like everything I do in my life, I'm super passionate about. When I'm passionate about something, I'm like, I love it and I'm obsessed with it. And I think about it all the time and I can't wait. So I'm not a dabbler.
Yeah.
So if I shift to that, I would be obsessed with it. And there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, I feel that.
True. Very true.
And all my hours are used up.
Yeah.
So that was one of the questions I was going to ask, but I'll let Stacy go because I've been asking a lot.
No, I was just kind of going to, I mean, part of your success, because you've had success over multiple dogs. A lot of times, you see somebody may have success with like one dog, but it's not necessarily like replicated dog to dog to dog. And you've been able to be highly successful with multiple dogs, which shows a lot of consistency from a training perspective. And I'd love to kind of get some of your thoughts about how you're able, maybe that's just a huge question, but how you're able to get some of this consistency. Is it understanding kind of the core fundamentals? Is it more training fundamentals? Is it like, what do you think kind of drives some of that?
I think it's a couple of things. One is persistence. So I have had to train all my dogs differently. All my dogs are vastly different. And every time I think I know what I'm doing, they clearly tell me that I do not have a clue. So if what I'm doing doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. If that doesn't work, I'll try something else and I'll try rinse and repeat for years, right? Because I find it fascinating. I'm like, I am going to figure this out if it's the last thing I do. And I will go completely outside the box. So I've driven like 10 hours one way to work with a behavior multiple times in the past. I've gotten stuff from freestyle people. I've gotten stuff from agility. Like I listen to podcasts. I watch videos. I take classes. Like I'm constantly consuming because I'm constantly trying to figure out for this specific dog, what do I need to do so that they understand what I want? So I am super persistent, and I would say I'm like flexible / creative. I don't know, whatever you would call that, to where I will just try different things over and over. Like I never feel this is the way I train. You must do it this way. Come on, dog, get it together. Do it this way. I'll be like, no, he doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. What can I do to figure that out? So I think that's like those Those are the two main things, right? Is I understand they're all different. And I understand that I need to figure out how to communicate what I want to this specific dog. And just because I was able to figure it out with 3 other dogs, well, this dog's like, nope, doesn't make any sense to me. So I just don't give up, because that's what I find fascinating about dog training. Like, I love challenges. I love puzzles. I love the fact that it's hard. Do I get frustrated? Absolutely. Are there times when I'm like, ugh. Like, I had gotten to a point with Zeal where I had talked to some people and we all agreed he was already operating way above his natural ability. And that was probably as good as it was going to get. And I was totally okay with that. And I said, but I am going to keep trying to figure out this one problem he's having, because for my own personal self, I want to see if I can figure it out. And if I can't, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I did at 8 years old. I figured it out. So to me, that's the essence of dog training. It's why I still do it. Because if it was easy, if there was a recipe, if it was like, this is how I train and I do this with every dog and it works with every dog, I would not be doing this, because I would be bored and I'd be off doing something else.
It sounds like you're a listener of dogs. Like, it's, when we start thinking about things like recipes, like that seems more, it's like, this is what I want you to do and you're going to go do it. And it sounds like what you're describing, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that you heavily weight listening and observing.
I'm obsessed with that, because I know that my dogs are trying.
Yeah.
Right. I know that what I'm asking them to do is ridiculous. Like, there is nothing inherently self-reinforcing in competition obedience. They have to use an enormous amount of mental concentration for a sustained amount of time amidst enormous distractions that vary constantly, and they're always different, and with an enormous amount of pressure that's uncomfortable for them. So I believe that they're trying.
You just made it sound like everybody wants to do this after that description. I mean, that's a commercial for obedience right there.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like, it is.
It's not fun, and it's hard.
So therein lies my obsession, right? Like, how can I take that and make it fun? Like, how can I take that and make my dog like it? How can I take that and make my dog happy? How can I take that and make my dog be like, yeah, and like run and jump and fly? And how can I make my dog, it's not flashy. Like, you can make something look flashy with an e-collar, right? I don't want that. Like, I want my dog to legitimately be happy and relaxed and confident and proud. And like, this is really awesome, right? And that's my holy grail with every single one of my dogs, right? Is how can I make that happen? That's my goal. That's what I strive for.
That's so cool.
So what is your process kind of for maintaining that level of engagement across the entire dog's career?
So I break things into pieces. I work on, now when I say work on, like, it's a work because I try to be super clear. I may think I'm being clear, but maybe this dog isn't understanding it, right? So there's always this give and take, give and take. I break things down. I make it fun. I build up my dog's confidence. Like, I care about that more than anything, right? I care about my dog's emotional state, how they're feeling, and how confident they are. And I work on that a lot. And I work on tiny little pieces. I make each piece super fun, like front behavior, which is, again, if you put yourself in your dog's shoes, it makes no sense, right? Like, sit in front of me, perfectly straight, all your feet tucked in, not too far to the left, not too far to the right, not too far away from me, not too close. Your spine from your head to your tail must be perfectly straight. It can't be one iota off to the left or right. So people would be like, oh, like, who wants to teach that? Like, that's like awful. My dogs love fronts, love them. I could take a dog right now and my dog would do 30 fronts in a row and would be bouncing and happy and their tail would be wagging and they're like, let's do more. Right. Because in my mind, I don't think of a front as a nitpicky thing. I'm like, it's just a silly pet trick. Like, I just have to teach them a silly pet trick. Right. And if once they understand the silly pet trick and they like it, they're just going to want to keep doing it. Right. No different than a wave or a spin or a sit or any other silly pet trick or a hand touch that a dog does. Right. It's my mindset and it's how I present it to the dog and it's how I teach it. And I really take my time with everything. Like, I'm not in a rush, right? So I really take my time and I motivate everything very heavily. I think the biggest part is your mindset, right? And taking your time and listening to the dog. If my dog's like, yeah, that's really hard, I'm really confused, I'm not just going to keep soldiering on. I'm going to say, okay, we have to figure this out.
I think I just realized my fronts are too. So I'm actually like training obedience for fun right now. And I've never really kind of done that before. Like, Brava's actually really enjoying it and I'm having a blast. And now I'm also realizing I think my front's like, she's kind of glued to me. So it's probably not something that you'd probably be like, oh, need a little bit more space there. So anyway, I'm just kind of like going through my head. I'm like, all right, so that might be something I need to change.
Well, it's for scoring, right? Like,
true. Yeah. I'm not looking at.
Right. Like, I didn't care about scoring, I probably less.
Yeah.
Everything in obedience gets scored, like half point, half point, half point. And they're looking very carefully at me. Right. So
yeah,
if you want to achieve what I want to achieve in terms of, again, I have to have a goal. Right. And the goal is myself. So my goal is that I get the same dog in the ring as in training for the whole class. That's my goal. And then my goal is that I can get like the same precision with that animation and confidence and joy in the ring as I get in training. Like, that's my holy grail. Right. So to strike that balance, it's not uncommon in my sport for dogs to not be animated, because if you put too much of a burden on them, like, oh, that's not right, that's not, fix this, fix that, don't do this, don't do that, they're not free, right? They start to get really flat. They might be precise. They might get good scores. They might do well. It's just not what I personally want, right?
Yeah. You've talked, and it sounds like it's probably related to another subject that you've talked a lot about, is pressure. Just like paying attention to a lot of the stuff that you've done, a lot of workshops and webinars for FDSA that are around pressure. And I think it's in a lot of your classes. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it sounds like that might be related.
Yeah. So I've become obsessed with pressure because no one talked about it in obedience. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't addressed. It wasn't anything. When I had Zeal and he was struggling, I used the behaviors that had helped me with Zayden, and I consulted with her. And so she explained pressure and helped me understand pressure and helped me read when my dog was under pressure. And dogs are under a lot of pressure in the obedience ring because, like, they're left. We leave them for certain things. And when we leave them, the judge is standing next to them. There's stuff going on behind them. There's stuff going on next to them. So there are many different scenarios where they're really uncomfortable. And Zeal's problem was he was so uncomfortable with pressure that he would always go to escape it, right? So I said, okay, I get that he's uncomfortable in pressure. I certainly don't want to be like, dude, suck it up and just stay there, because he was horrified. Like, I don't want him to feel like that, like the poor thing. So I'm like, okay, how can I now change his emotional state? So pressure makes the dogs feel bad, right? In the simplest form, pressure doesn't feel good. So how can I make pressure cue the opposite? So instead of pressure cueing, oh God, how can I have pressure cue. I know what to do. I'm really confident. You can't fool me. I've got this, right? So that's when I remember the summer, it was during the pandemic, like standing there in the building with somebody I was training with. I'm like, how can I get him to like not just be happy under pressure, but back into it? And so that's when I started coming up with a lot of the games that I've come up with, to like a whole bunch of different games to get the dogs comfortable with pressure. And then I started teaching about it, and I'm like obsessed with it. Like I address it with every student in every class constantly, because it's just a huge factor. And you can actually change the dog's response to pressure. I've done it with a lot of dogs now and a lot of students' dogs, and it totally works, which is pretty darn cool. And I think, again, like I'm asking so much of my dog, right? And I could just say, that was the old way of doing it. We are like, yeah, just stay there. I know the judge is there, just suck it up and stay there. But I don't want to do that if I don't have to. Like, so I don't have to anymore, which is pretty good.
And this is a topic near and dear to my heart, because in bite sports, we use pressure all the time and the dogs fight into the pressure. And that's the kind of dogs that I've always been drawn to, are the ones that when you apply some pressure, they want to fight and bite. And now with Radish, I mean, any amount of pressure, and she's like, nope, see ya. And so I love that I'm learning so much with her now in every aspect, but you're kind of making me think I can still take a lot of the things that I've used in bite sports and just dial that down and adjust it to help her. She used the pressure as the cue of moving forward and being confident. So I appreciate that twist in my mindset now. I'm going to use that.
It's shift in thinking, right? So with obedience people, they're very like goal-oriented and task-oriented. So they're like, dog must stay when judge approaches. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It's not about can the judge walk right up to your dog. It's about, can the dog get happier and happier and happier the closer the judge gets to you, right? So it's just shifting that mindset. So like the judge is far away and the dog barely even registers a judge, and I go, yes, and I reward my dog and I release them off the pressure immediately, right? Put them back, judge gets a tiny bit closer. Yes, dog's not even ear flicking yet, right? So now the dog gets more and more glued to me. And then so the goal is always mark and release the dog off the pressure before the dog looks away. Now, if the dog does look away, that's my fault. I was too slow. I yes and release him off the pressure anyway, right? And then I make sure in the next 2 reps that I do it sooner. So the dog's only succeeding, right? And then the dog starts to go, oh, like, when this person gets close to me, any second now. Yes. And they do the game. And so now they're winning the game. Right. And I do it very carefully. Like if on the first week, the judge can only get like within, 20 feet of my dog, that's okay. And you just work it incrementally. And I do it, from each side, from behind. And I'm just constantly addressing it. And I have or I'll use a mat, right? So like my dogs have this really strong positive association with walking backwards and putting their back feet on a mat, right? So if I have a judge like somewhat behind them, again, not too close, and my dog in front of the mat, and I say to my dog, put your feet on the mat. They forget about the judge because they're like, feet on mat. And then I go, yes. And I release them forward. Right. And so on. So it makes them really confident and they feel like they're winning because they are. They never lose. They never lose the game. Right. They're always winning. And so then it just totally changes their relationship with the pressure.
There's another word in there that I keep hearing is confidence. And I'm curious, you personally, have you always been confident? How do you handle your nerves? Like, do you get nervous? I
had a very dysfunctional, abusive upbringing. I had zero confidence. I was the most insecure person on the planet. I signed up for a class in high school once, and on the first day, the teacher's like, "Oh, and one of the things you're going to be doing is you're all going to get up and talk in front of the class." And as soon as the class was over, I went to my counselor's office. I got rid of that. I pulled myself out of it. I was like,
Wow.
"There's no way." I had no friends. I sat by myself in the library and ate my lunch there. I was horribly shy. I had zero confidence, zero self-esteem for a huge portion of my life. I just attacked it. I am the way I am now because I dealt with it the way I do everything in life. I developed strategies. And then eventually I discovered like mental management. I read a zillion books, worked on it until I became more confident. Right. And I've always challenged myself. I've always done things I'm afraid of, things that make me nervous, because the more you do that, the more it builds your confidence over time. Because you're like, well, it can't be that bad. Like I did this already. I did that already. So I had years of therapy that helped as well. Again, I worked on it really hard. For a competition, when I had Tyler, the dog that was really talented, that someone was coming to give a seminar on mental management. So of course I had to read their book to prepare because that's how I am. And I'm reading the book and every chapter it's like, well, you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, yep, I do that. Next chapter, you shouldn't do this. I'm like, yep, I do that. So I get through the whole book. I'm like, oh my God, this dog gives me 150% every single time I train. And I am a train wreck. Like, this is not fair to this dog. So I made a vow that I was going to work on it every day. So the cool thing about this book is for every chapter, it also gave you what you should do instead. So one chapter at a time, I worked on it 15 minutes every day for a solid year. So a year later was when I entered him in his first national. I had never been to a national. I had never seen one. I was clueless. It was in California. This was before phones, social media, any of that stuff. So I was blind. I was competing against people I'd only ever read about. Like I was so in over my head. Not a single person I knew thought I could do anything there. And that's a fact. They out-told me. So my only goal there was to do my mental management. That was my only goal. And I had my notebook, and every time everybody around me started freaking out and getting cookie crazy, I ran to my crate and I looked at my notes. I'm like, read. Put my headphones in, read my notes, stick to the plan. And that was the first national he won.
Wow.
So
Wow.
100%.
Wow.
Because of the mental management stuff I did.
And what book was this?
Jane Savoy's book. It's not about the ribbons. So she's a dressage writer. Jane Savoy.
Yep.
Savoie. And then I became addicted to mental management after that because I was like, well, if it had such a profound impact on my ability, on my ring nerves per se, like, why wouldn't I use it for other aspects of my life? So I do. Now, that's not to say I'm never insecure. It's not to say I'm never nervous. I get nervous at trials. Everybody does. I know how to manage them, right? I can manage my nerves. I get nervous with things in life. I get insecure about things. Everybody does. Like, that's normal. But I'm definitely not the same person I was when I was younger, for sure. And it's just work, right? That's everything in life. You just have to.
That's amazing. So usually right about the end of our time with our guests, we usually ask folks to kind of think about takeaways. And we usually do ours first because that way you can kind of think about your takeaway. And actually, maybe Crystal, do you want to do your takeaway? Do you want me to?
I was laughing about the description of obedience. And
Right,
so that just got
let
me.
me do a very brief caveat on that.
Okay. Okay.
I love obedience so much. So last year, Zaina had an injury. She was out for like 3 months. My dogs are with me all the time, right? Like, I missed her. And I'm like, I miss her. She's right here.
Yeah.
Because the intimacy, the relationship from the training is so deep because of the work, because it's hard, because you have to learn to read that dog inside out. You have to really understand that dog. And when you're in sync, it is the most beautiful thing. Like, you're so connected to that dog. It's so fun. Like, it's just amazing. That's why I still do it, because when you get that, and just the whole process, right? Like, the relationship is so deep and so strong. That's why that's still my sport of choice.
Yeah.
And I've done dog sports, but this is still my favorite one.
I feel it. That's one of the reasons I love the protection sports that I do. It's that connection and it's that obedience aspect of it. And like with canine partners, there is no other. And that passion, you can hear it in everything you talk about. And I love that so much. Like, I feel that in my soul. When Quinn could no longer do bite sports, retired, I grieved. I mean, you would have thought that my dog died, but it is. There's so much power in that and that relationship and connection. So that's one of the pieces that I heard throughout everything was the connection, the relationship, and the confidence that you build together, not just in your dog, but I think with both of you. So that was a beautiful piece that I heard.
Yeah. And I think for me, I also really appreciate how you observe and how you really are paying attention to the dog as an individual, and that you're constantly listening and observing, and how your approach to training is very much rooted in that. And I think a lot of times we talk about the difference between training out of a recipe and kind of the craft of training. And what you've described is really the craft. And I love hearing that, because I think that's a driver for consistency as a trainer, because you're having to listen to the dog in order to create a well-trained dog. And that was very, very clear in this conversation. I love hearing about that.
My takeaway is that I talk a lot.
It's
That's
awesome.
what you're supposed to do.
Yes, it's a podcast. It's a podcast.
I think dog training is dog training, right? Regardless of the sport. Like, I've done many different sports. My first sport was actually field training. And I was so fortunate because my first mentor there taught me lessons in dog training that hold true to this day with the dogs I have in a completely different sport. So I think the important thing is kind of what Stacy mentioned. What I'm obsessed with is reading the dog in front of you. That dog is going to be an individual. It's going to be different than other dogs. And it's our responsibility to be flexible. It's not their responsibility. It's ours, because we chose to do this with them. So it's our responsibility to learn to read them and give them information that dog understands. And if we are having trouble with that, which we all will, then 300% there. And now, holy cow, do we have resources, like endless amounts of resources online, like endless. You shouldn't only go to your trainer. It doesn't even have to necessarily be your sport, because good training is good training, which is like, I listened to your podcast because, for example, the series you did on consistency. Well, so much of what you're talking about is valid in my sport, is valid in agility, is valid in field work.
And I think that's what all of our listeners should be able to do and listen and take from you, is that you can substitute detection and agility and obedience for anything that you talked about today, because I kept thinking about it in all the things that I do as well. And so that was really awesome. And you also said that good dog training is good dog training, and there's resources everywhere. How do people find you? Where can they learn from you?
Me? Well,
Yeah.
lot on Fenzi, on the Fenzi online school. If they go and just Google me. I'm on Facebook. Yeah, but most of my stuff is on Fenzi. Anything new that I have coming up, I post on my Facebook page.
And you are such a generous, giving trainer. You make the most brilliant posts, and they just tickle my brain every time, and I have to go back and reread and think more. So thank you for everything that you give so freely. I mean, you really are such a passionate trainer, and you have made such a difference for so many. And I hope that more and more people in a different area now know about you even more and can learn even more from you, because you're so amazing. So thank you for giving all of this time. And as Robin says, thank you to all of our listeners, and go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.